foal or a young calf at birth or shortly after, they learn so much more quickly. It'd be like the difference between teaching me to swim and teaching Becca's little daughter Claire to swim. Claire'd learn, I'd just throw her in the bathtub and she'd take off. I'd drown. So it really, the younger they are, the quicker they learn. So this animal standing beside each other, every cow-calf, when I was in cow-calf practice, every time I went to a farm, Dr. Mandy, that had infertility, huge diarrhea problems, huge pneumonia problems, lameness, infertility, they had one thing in common, and I never knew what the connection was. But if you went there half through calving time, as it greened up, you might see 100 calves around a windmill with only 3 cows babysitting them. Or you'd see 25 in a group with only 2 babysitters. And if the worst one I ever seen was 800 babies with 600 around 2 windmills. And when those mothers came from the cornfields and the wheat fields, these calves would attack those heifers like a feeding frenzy. Some of those heifers would let one nurse, some 2, some none. The cattle would get all full milk all over because they only nurse twice a day, and they'd smell funny, and they'd get sick. So why would? And I thought it was a genetic thing. No, it doesn't matter the breed. It doesn't matter the breed. It's all in how we interact. And it was my fault because we'd had a terrible scour disease, and that's one of the risks we have, Dr. Emily. When you tell these people something, they trust you. And I told these people, that's before the Sandhills calving system was designed, I said it's a sanitation thing. Where do the scour bugs come from? The birds? No, the cows. So you've got to get those new babies to clean ground as soon as you can. Well, that's right, but we moved the wrong cattle. We had all these babies in this pretty dirty area, and so we hauled these pairs 10 miles to a clean cornfield and turned them out, and they were confused. If you're gonna move cattle, don't move the families. That's a big deal to have a baby and have to take care of it and move all in the same day. Holy mackerel. You never recover from that. So we started moving the heavies. We'd leave what was born, just put electric fence and move across. But the point is, you should do an index when you go through your calving ground. If a cow's over here in this corner and the baby's out in the kitchen, that's not right. They shouldn't be that far apart at this age. They should stay together for 6 months. And which animal's easier to drive? Calf. He wants to learn. So just say hello, just like I was taking that big fat heifer out of the pen, just say hello to that baby and take her to her mama. Tell her to go find something. So really, those are the things that are important. If first calf heifers don't drip milk, they've got too much cortisone. So that oxytocin, when he walks up there to get colostrum, it should just run into him. It shouldn't be a big job. So that's a barometer of how satisfied that mother is. That drip, that drip, that drip. This Therapies product is going to be an application that we're going to learn how to use, and we're just starting to do research on that. I talked to a veterinarian yesterday. You know how some of those cows go berserk in a storm and try to kill their baby and just go ballistic? He captured the baby on his side-by-side, and she followed him into the chute, and she stood there, and he put Therapies on her pole and down her nose, and within 2 to 3 minutes, she was just talking to that baby. And he turned her out, and she was a lot better. It doesn't work every time, but there's some of these new products that are coming that are going to be pretty exciting to watch. This This is when they're training, this is when a calf is trained to be aware of direction. He's guided, which way, what is, never ever interrupt this. This is sacred. He doesn't need a tag. He needs colostrum. He needs attention. He needs a bath. So never interrupt it. This herd that I was telling you about used to have 600 calves around these two windmills. And this is what you see today. This is the most amazing transition I've ever seen in my life. For 6 months, if you see a big animal, there's a partner. They're going to sell her. That's too much space. They don't like her. If he gets hungry, he doesn't drink a gallon, he drinks a cupful. These cattle that come to this feed yard don't overload. And you can put a lot of cattle in one pen because they'll take turns. That's a girl, that's a boy back there. Girls are more apt to snuggle their mama than a boy. You just start seeing stuff. But this, what is this a result of? I can't believe what this is. This is a result of training the replacement heifers. This is a result of training your replacement heifers to follow you. This is the result of asking your heifers. When I retire, I'm going to go to Congress and I'm going to pass a law that it should be illegal to put a needle in a replacement heifer the first time she's in a chute. What is she going to anticipate the rest of her life? Replacement heifers, you should send them through your system at least once or twice before you ever bangs vaccinate or deworm or anything. Yeah, they'll be standing over there wanting to go through there. So training is what changed this herd. Those red cows. These when they used to move these cows to cornfields, they would put them out on a county road, and even on a warm day, they'd run until they were open mouth breathing. They're just frantic. I thought they were loony. No, it was the people that were loony. Today, this is your country. Even on a day like today, look at those babies and mamas together. That's the only way they survive. Look at that one over there is nursing. That's a miracle. But those red cows that used to be frantic, here's those cows going to cornfields today. This is a dream. There's 1,200 of these pairs. And there's a team roper and 2 cowboys driving these. The one cowboy's up on that ridge. That team roper's down there trying to heal one, and the other boys clear over on another ridge, and they're walking these 8 miles. And they never wean these cattle. They run on this kind of grass in cornfields until they start calving again in May, and they've already weaned. They just load these 850-pound cattle up and get a premium for them. And they said, Dr. Tom, we feel kind of bad because we never weaned them. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. They're buying other people's ranches. But this is so how we calve, those kinds of things. So this is one thing that I tolerated for a long time, and I'd go to a branding, and we'd gather the cattle. We're so glad we got them in the corral, but there'd be 50 of these babies behind. What should you do when this happens? You should take them back out and bring them in right. It's just too much help. How can you run 50 mother cows away from their babies? It's so sad. When we went to Brazil, their first service conception rate on their AI programs was 16%, synchronized and AI. And you cannot afford to synchronize an AI to get 16%. They would you'd run those heifers in, part of them would go over backwards in the chute. You would AI them and they'd run out here and try to cross these fences, and they thought there was a problem with their semen handling. I said, well, you might as well put the semen on the ground. A terrified heifer is not going to conceive. I mean, that's the last thing on her mind. So what we did is we went and trained these people to work from the front. And this is just an example how these cattle are like grandmas on steroids. But this is them sorting pairs. Can you turn that light off maybe they can see just a little bit? There used to be 5 people in here to sort pairs. Now the rule is only 1 person, and the person has to stay to the front. The cows, when these were replacement heifers that were trained. I always wondered why they didn't put the gate in the corner. See how that gate's offset? It's in the middle of that fence. Here in a minute, you'll see why. Their current first service conception rate is somewhere between 78 and 85. It went from 16 to 85. Same inseminators, same semen company, different process. And this is what changed. Their ability to separate pairs, and then their discipline that every time they ever separated these families, their focus was on the baby, not the mother. And their focus was on homeschooling. Every time these babies were separated, they got one lesson in basic processing. There's a wooden alley straight up, the chute's open, and we just taught them to be processed from the time they were 50 days old. What I can't believe is none of these cattle are bawling for their babies. There's nobody crying. Now there's no dust, and I understand why, but I mean, this is when you make a difference at this age. If you don't know how to handle this breed, there's a reason those fences are that tall. They'll leave. But that goes back to, watch this baby. That's why that gate's offset. But that, when we were talking a little bit about before lunch about things that can make a difference. And where I live, we say we don't have time to do this. I say we don't have time not to do it. Because when we get ready to put cedars in those cows, they do the same thing these babies. They just put them back there and they just start flowing through there and we just put cedars in them. They never forget this, as long as they live. That's Dr. Adrian. She's the veterinarian there that she's moved to Ireland now, but this girl changed. This girl just reminds me of this practice so much because she spent a lot of time doing this, trying to measure whether it made a difference. That's what happens when you breed them white cows to an Angus bull. They're nice cattle. They're at least as good as our dairy beef cross things that we're getting, half Holstein. Their carcasses are a lot better. The reason we have to have these cattle there is the parasites and the heat. You can't even ride horses here, they all die. You gotta ride burros here. It's so ugly. That's what their goal is there. That chute's open. This is their first lesson. This is kindergarten 101. And I think what they've decided out in their big country where they don't have this central plant, they just build a kind of a portable, just a replica of an alley. It doesn't have to be 10, 20 feet long, just to show them that they can do this. Pretty simple task. So, one of the things that we, before we do that procedure, we always, to influence the maternal behavior, we have, instead of tagging calves on those cattle with that red ranch, red cattle, we do one, so Jeremy's gonna pick out a pair. He's going to pick out a pair, and they give them one lesson in exercise pairing, putting together and showing them that they can go as a family. So they'll go out here and he'll stop this cow. If they need to go to the bathroom or they need to visit, he just stops and doesn't pressure them. But he'll mark down that number 53 heifer has had one lesson in moving. And when we get ready to pair these out, the other thing that I take for granted, before he leaves here, he will not leave one single baby lying down, especially if it's stormy. It's time to you sensitize them. So it's just like a feedlot pen rider. Do you want to teach them to lay down or stand up? If you ride a pen and leave them laying down, that's what they'll do. But if you consistently, every time you come and check this calving group, you tell them to get up and get to work, pretty soon you show, look, see, there's calves going to find they're almost ashamed. Here comes a heifer, they're already learning. So it's taking your focus to not only health and dystocia detection, but changing your expectations of what you want these cattle to be doing and looking like. Now, when we get ready to brand or do those kinds of things, then we do. Here's this is a set of cattle that we did yesterday or Tuesday, and this is a beat up old place. We have a lot of fun here, and we've got the calves separated. But instead of processing them immediately, we just set up kind of a dummy alley over here and just teach them that they can go through here. So they'll circle around and come right back into that pen. Now, when we push calves, we rub them front to back. When you have an animal that stops out here in the Daniels Alley and you want him to go forward, put your hand in his withers and go like that, and he'll go forward. That's forward. If you want him to back up, go from his tail. Why does that work? That's how the mother guided him to his first breakfast. See that heifer, she'll lick him from the shoulder back, and the calf will find the udder. If he goes too far under there, she'll start right here licking and just back him up. they've learned that. They've learned that from their first breakfast. We calf implant. We give meloxicam to all the boys for pain relief, and the calf implant, and then we castrate, and then this year we tried therapies. There's research at Kansas State University that says therapies is an additive pain reliever to meloxicam. And so when we castrate, we pull that until the cremaster muscle breaks, and then we use a little emasculator. We have a syndrome in feed yards called a spermatic cord entrapment, and we'll have these, the spermatic cord loops around a piece of valve and the animal dies of a valve obstruction. And I think there's a rent in the mesometrium. So when we castrate these babies and just pull the cord and run to the pickup and just jerk it out by the roots, I think that's what causes these spermatic cord entrapments. But this therapies we're doing research on. And why did we use meloxicam and therapies? Because the next morning when we go out and go through these pairs, we go through these pairs at daybreak. All the girl calves are up nursing and getting their job done. All the boys, I'd have to ride up and ask them all to get up. Something was wrong. And when we give just meloxicam, you go down there at daybreak the next morning after you've processed, and you can't tell which one's a boy, because they're all nursing. Now, if I don't, Dr. Mandy, I've tried to measure weaning weight. I've tried to measure morbidity and mortality and tell you if you spend $1 on meloxicam, how much you're going to get back. Yeah. Well, I don't know. But if the baby, if that surgery has to be done in my eyes, and so if you can do that and not change his world, I think that's maybe the right thing to do. And so we'll keep measuring what we do with the therapies and how that's doing. So the week before, my other neighbor, we sorted these little babies really quietly, and they were really precious. I thought we were going to train these. Now when I start this video, count how many cattle you see in there that need an antibiotic. That one, there's two. Oh, that thing's, something's wrong with that dude. These calves were so quiet that I could walk around in there with my stethoscope and listen to their heart rate and their lung sounds. They were really trusted. It was easy to evaluate. And I just took chalk. We treated 17 of these because of the way their lungs sounded and what their heart rate was. And we thought we were going to train them, and the heart rates were somewhere between 47 and 70. And then pretty soon there's a lot of noise coming up the hill, and this is the next thing I saw. He'll never forget that. That's his first exposure to processing. And we see if we can make him longer. I'm not recommending anything, but There's a couple ways to do this. If we vaccinate and get pain replacer, castrate, and calf implant, which of those products have a return on the investment? If you spend $1 for vaccine, how much do you get back? If you spend $1 on meloxicam, if you spend $1.20 on Ralgro, how much do you get back? Anybody know? 22 to 40 pounds, depending on how much it rains. So let's say it was 31 pounds. At $3 a pound for 5 weights, that's a 90-something dollars. For $1.50. I don't know what Ralgro costs.
A little over $1 dose.
Yeah. I don't know of anything anyone in this room could do that was more predictable. And we talk about natural cattle. That's fine, but what percentage of the harvested cattle in America are sent to a natural program? Less than 3%. These order buyers tell you guys not to implant your calves so they can be natural. Yeah, that's because they don't want to give you as much money for them. It's pretty simple. Yeah, what is going to happen the first week that they get to a feedlot? They're going to get an implant. Don't let them people feel it. That's bullshit. You ask about human health. Turn on the light, Diane, please. We have the consumers saying that we don't want hormones in our meat. What's the difference between, in nanograms of estrogen, what's the difference between implanted and non-implanted beef? If you don't implant him, it's 1.2 nanograms. If you implant him, it goes clear up to 1.6. Okay? How much estrogen is in raw peas? 1.6 in a serving of beef, 454 in peas. 30,000 in soybean milk. 102,000 in soy protein concentrate. How much estrogen's on ice cream? That's why I'm so fat. In milk, in milk, there's 11 nanograms of estrogen in milk, in a serving of milk, and we've raised our beef from 1.2 to 1.6. There's enough estrogen in one birth control pill to match what estrogen is in 5,500 pounds of implanted beef. It is not, it is safe, guys. There isn't, it's a non-issue. We have climate change, right? You can see it right outdoors. If you're talking about carbon footprint, what's the feed efficiency on natural beef cattle? What's the conversion rate? You have to feed those cattle 8 or 9 or 10 pounds of feed for a pound of gain. When we manage the implants, the conversion's 5.9 to 6. The carbon footprint of well-managed cattle is a fraction of natural cattle. I mean, there's truth about this stuff. But the reason I hate to have you implant calves on the ground is that if you don't keep that needle sterile, you inject an abscess, not an implant. And when you're my age, to crawl around on the ground and keep that needle sterile, first time I ever seen them using Ralgro to branding, they didn't have an implant tray, Dr. Mandy. The corner post there was a railroad tie. When they'd wrestle a calf down, implant him, and they stuck the implant needle in the railroad tie. It's just stuff you need to do right. Oh, anyway, any questions on castration? So these are, if we train these calves for branding time, it's so much fun. In the drought, we didn't have any grass. We had to move these calves a lot. And every time we unloaded babies last summer, guess what happened to them? Design your unloading pen next to your working facility. We'd kick them off the trailer, and they're going, I wonder what we wanted. They're so sensitive. So instead of letting them go find their mother, we said, here's lesson 2. Bye-bye. Truly amazing. But these calves, they get to loving this. When we did our pre-wean shots, that's just the way the only trouble we had, we had 4 in the chute at once. These are Diane's calves the day after pre-wean vaccination, and their mothers are out there, and they're eating oat hay along here, and they're getting, and then she'll let them out in the morning. And when I get help for her, when we get them contract and get a delivery date, sometimes she'll bring them in and sort them and have them spend the night away without vaccine. So then they've had this done twice. And when you take them to the feedlot, all the other calves in the trailers and the trucks are screaming, and the guy that buys them doesn't like this because he thinks we've weaned them and filled them. He said, how long have these been weaned? And we said 20 minutes. That's the way they are. And when cattle, when they got this is the most important thing you teach any breeding cattle. Manage the gate. Never send cattle any place without somebody at the gate to monitor. These are all our mothers are back there, and Wayne's teaching these cattle to trust him enough to come by and go straight. And if they have some grass cattle places in Nebraska, the big steers walk the perimeter of the pasture for 3 days. They won't stop. It's because they didn't do this. When you open a gate and let 500 6-weights out and just go, that's what they do. Don't let out 600, let out 20. They'll come to this trough and start eating. Then let out 10, they won't even make it to the other cattle. Let out 5, pretty soon the other cattle won't leave the pen. And then it's against the law to let cattle out of here without somebody in front of them. We in America have got to teach our cattle to follow us. We've been behind them so long, they don't know what that feels like. That's so when we process those calves, we never ever let them wander to their home. We always put a shepherd in front of them. These calves have been through the processing barn, and Caesar's going to take them home. That's the difference between a shepherd and a cowboy. Those things we're used to having him stop at the gate and have them pass him to the gate. Now he just takes them clear to the bunk, and they'll just line up with that bunk and eat till they're full. Never send cattle somewhere without support. Oh, Megan, we gotta get going. Sorry. This is we used to chase cattle away from our processing barns. This is the most fascinating thing. This is drone on our. So these barns back here, and these big old cattle, we used to chase them to their home pen. And Shane can just back that brown horse in there and hook onto those cattle in less than 20 seconds. I want to learn how to do this. Look at him, he's pulling those cattle clear from that gate. And they'll line up there in a row. Then he'll move that horse's hip. Shane's face is shaped like an eagle. He doesn't have, his eyes are out here on his face. He's got a real thin face. And he can see behind him. My eyes are over here and I have to go down. But this changes everything. Look at the cattle over there in the recovery pen. Those two cripples that got sorted off. They're all dying to go with him. That's my dream, that we all learn how to do that.
Can you do that on foot?
Yeah. You can do it on a four-wheeler. Yeah, a four-wheeler. When my kids first started using four-wheeler, you need to tune it up a little bit. I usually put a little water in the fuel. Anyway, but yeah, yes, a foot, you can do that afoot.
It doesn't have to be horseback.
No, that's and actually it's easier to do afoot. All these things are easier to learn walking, right? Like, if you do this horseback and you make a mistake, all you have to do is trot over here and fix it. If you make a mistake and these cattle go a half mile and you're afoot, you learn faster. Cattle will learn. We won't have time for much of this, but that's how we acclimate. That's exuberation. That hypothalamus is fixed. That's the second day in weaning pen, and they go four corners and go to their breakfast. Play. This is how we used to load fat cattle. Well, I'm not going to show you this. This takes 4.5 minutes to get part this little wrist. It's a tub, it's a solid sided thing, and we get people up on catwalks and it blows cattle's minds. When you're above cattle, you're lost. What does their nose do when you're above them? What does a colt's nose do? What does his front feet do when you pick his nose up? Stop. Never crawl up in a tree to try to gather cattle. This goes on. But if you have an open system and you got a man that knows that cattle need to see their source of guidance, the destination, and they teach them to go straight. And that truck driver has been highly trained. He's focused on the front animal, not the front. And if they're moving, he does nothing. How do you speed cattle up? You walk by. This video is 42 seconds and they load the top dead. No bruises. These steps are 12 feet by 4 inches. They don't even know they're going up. That opening there is 7 feet, and it's 10 feet to go down to here. And we're making all of these things a lot wider than we used to. We used to make them 32 inches wide. Our cattle weighs 17,000 pounds now. We got to make them bigger. So, make this. There's lots of things that we've learned that are making this thing. These kids live where there's no television. Nobody's told them you need a headgear to ride your calf. Nobody's told her you can't brand your dog with a rake. And the dog's saying, I hope they don't have a pocket knife. I went, that's, you people are blessed to live here where you do. It is so amazing. One more and then we gotta get going or we're gonna get sweared at.
We got time, you're good.
Good. Oh, so this one thing we do, when we buy sale-born cattle, we designed our unloading facility to be near our bud box and our alley. And so the first thing that happens to these cattle are very sensitive, they just have a lesson. And they'll never forget this. They're looking to learn, looking to learn. In Australia, they have, and when they load the grass cattle out of the Northern Territory, there's no loadout facilities. And so there's no reason to not, how they design stuff. So I asked them, how do you get them things loaded? They say the strays, we were working processing grass cattle, and these strays come out of the windbreak, and they say the strays are the smartest. So these three boys said, let's take a break and we'll teach these to want to be on the truck. Watch this kid in the back, he's half older for me. Watch the animal's head as he steps in there. Watch his ears. Watch this pressure release. Watch this focus on being available to the eye. Being aware of your cattle love to go straight. They love to follow each other. They want to go where we intend. This was a hot day. We left this end gate open and we went and had a glass of tea. We're going 15 minutes. His calves were still in there. They wouldn't come out of there until that boy went out and unloaded them. That's where they perceived to belong. So, we're going to be over there. Think of questions, and if anybody's got a notebook, Meg, do you have a notebook in your pickup?
Yep.
Yeah, because there's a couple things I'd like to draw and explain when we get over there, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank